My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sivasankaran, Guru Piranyo, fellow Jnanis. This week is an auspicious week. On the 11th of November, 1911, Swamiji, that is the day that, Swamiji took as the day of enlightenment. This is the day that he asked important questions that made significant transformation in his life. And I will speak about it shortly. So 11th of November, 1911, Swamiji had a kind of an enlightening moment that significantly changed his life. And we commemorate that day, the 11th of November, as the Dawn of Wisdom Day. And for many years, we've been celebrating this. And this year, on the 11th of November, 2025, we celebrated in our main center and across all the different centers. And we will continue the celebration this week. Given that we are meeting today, I thought it would be really good to speak about Mahan and his Enlightenment Day, the Wisdom Day, and what it actually means. Why do we celebrate these great saints and sages and great people's important days, such as birthday, or the day they attain wisdom, or the day they attain samadhi, mahasamadhi? Why all this is really important for us who are living, who are, we go through many challenges in our lives. We are sometimes so caught up with our daily material world. Sometimes we go through the strings of sukha dukkha's, and sometimes we are unable to pull away from those cycles of sukha dukkha, and we go through a emotional roller coaster. And this meditation and observing and using the role models of these great saints and sages is very important for us to live a more harmonious life, a more peaceful life, and more importantly, a productive life. A life that is not impacted, or at least we are able to minimize the cycle of sukha dukkha, the samsaric life, such that over time we're able to become transcendental to it, and we're able to attain a peaceful and a wisdom-rich life. So it requires a fair bit of effort, and one is, of course, our own effort, but it's really important to see some role models that help us to see that this can be done even in our normal day-to-day life. And so we celebrate this dawn of wisdom and Mahan's important functions to use there to remind us that how a person who has many challenges in life has put in place things, practices, and discipline to be able to help him navigate those challenges in life, to overcome it, and more importantly, to acquire that knowledge and wisdom to stand tall majestically to say, I am that. I am that liberated person. I am that liberated, in the liberated state of existence. And that wonderful, peaceful, blissful state that they have achieved, and they have documented it, they have researched it, they have identified things that works and things that does not work, and document it so that others can use that as a manual for them also to attain a more harmonious and peaceful life. So today we celebrate this Mahan and how he achieved this harmonious and peaceful and wisdom-rich life, to go through his life story and more importantly, the contribution that he has made to society. I was very fortunate to have seen him, lived with him, learned from him, and more importantly, regard him as a mentor, a grandfather, and more importantly, inspirational teacher. So I want to share with you what my understanding of this great master that has shaped, and transformed my own life, but the life of many, many people that came across, that came to see him and got this initiation. So I want to briefly talk about his biography, some of the challenges that he went through, and his idea of this concept and how he met his guru, how he's met his teacher that essentially helped him to focus, on a very important, substratum or a very important dimension that many people find it hard to attain. It's written in the scriptures, but to attain it is not that easy. It requires a mind that is really disciplined and tough. So I will document what shaped Mahan's worldview and way of life, and how we can learn from him. Then I will talk about once he acquired that knowledge of being able to get his mind to that state, he started thinking about more deeper things, deeper philosophies of life, about the creator, sometimes we call it God, about the creation process, about all creation, including our own self, and how this different substratums or different dimensions all come together as one. And he developed this concept called I God. He's not calling himself God. He says that the I, that which gives existence, is a manifestation of God. He's got that concept, and then to attain that, he has to realize that he has to have a method for the mind, which is often tormented by the day-to-day things, a technique and a method to enable the mind to go deeper, to touch that substratum or that core of divinity or the core of the creator. So the creation knows that the DNA of the creation is anointed and blessed by the DNA of the creator. Right? So here it is. He says, how do I be able to cognize this? What telescope or microscope that I need to use to go back to that original substratum called the creator? So he developed a technique to enable the mind to, like a microscope and a telescope, to be able to touch that core. I call it the inner scope. This is Mahan's 3 stages of meditation. Then I will talk about, by practicing this meditation, what are the benefits of this practice? How it helps the body be healthy, how it helps the mind to be healthy, how it helps our everything that we do. We're able to put it in the context of the divine force that powers everything. And in that, we see that our whole personality transforms and changes, and more importantly, we see that everything starts making sense. And as things start making sense, you'll see that we navigate through this journey called life in a graceful and a peaceful, in a fun and in a very productive way until our time to shed that mortal body, and even that process becomes. So how is it that I know? I've seen this among the practitioners of this teaching. So I want to share with you today, what is the wisdom that we are celebrating? Is the wisdom to know that we are all part of that creation, the creator, and through the creative process, many things have emerged in this universe. We are one of that manifestation, and that we are all God packaged differently. But still, the DNA is the same. So that's the wisdom, knowledge that he helped us discover through the meditational process, through the awakening of the mind, through the intellect, and more importantly, through the ability to cognize that everything is this one substratum. So I'm going to take you through this Mahan and how did he acquire this knowledge, a little bit of his history and what ticked his curiosity. Sometimes there are small events in our life that makes that amazing shift from outside to the inside. And it happens to all of us. Only thing is that some know it, some recognize it, others don't see it. So they miss those important trends in our lives. So this is Mahan's biography. You probably would have read it. I'm going to give you the context of his biography from what I know from his own personal narration with us when he was in Malaysia, and also with the closest disciples that he was with and communicated with. And one such closest disciple is Guru Piran Sivasankaran, where he spent a lot of times, where he had a lot of correspondence, and the father-son relationship, they got quite, Guru Sankaran knew quite a lot of things of Mahan, and he shared with those communication with us. So this narration I'm giving is the knowledge that I acquired from Mahan himself and from Guru Sankaran, who was very close to Mahan. So here it is. So Mahan was born in a very simple town, uh, in what we call May 2nd, 1900. So the 20th century. So in the place called Kansapuram, where near the Ramnath district in South India. I've marked it here on this picture here. He was born to a respectable family, and they made sure that he had good knowledge of the religious teachings. And his main mother tongue was Urdu, not Tamil. So Tamil is what he learned in the later part after he, moved to India. And even for a short while, he was speaking Urdu in his family. So Tamil was not his main language, but over time he picked it up. So he was born in a family which was quite respectable, very humble, but also very religious. So you see that very humble background and the discipline led him to thinking through, and he did say that he went through many teachings, religious teachings in the early part of his life. And he knew about the concept of God from his own religious background, and to attend his places of worship. He met many people, and they were all praying, and he was always curious about God and the Creator. So there was an incident that took place. So he was very curious to know who this Creator was, the creation process, and how he fitted in this whole picture. And something very interesting that happened in India that made him think a little bit more deeper. And this is something that we all have to learn, that sometimes we have to be conscious and open to new things. And when we start introspecting those things that happen, those events, we start seeing that it deepens our spiritual pursuit. One such incident is actually on 11 November 1911. The king and the queen left Portsmouth, and they were actually, it is the coronation. They were on board to the Indian Empire. So there was a lot of celebration, because of the coronation of the king. And remember, India was part of the British Empire. So the king was seen as the coronation, and the king is seen as a celebration throughout the empire. So during this coronation celebration, Swamiji, there was a big, carnival and festival and celebrations and wonderful things that was happening. And Swamiji, like a 11-year-old boy, came out and became part of the celebration. And he was very happy in the joyfulness, suppose it was a holiday, and they were all happy. And Swamiji then asked someone there that, uh, why are we celebrating? So this person said that we're celebrating because the king is being coronated and he's traveling and he's going to be visiting. And Swami said, what does the king do? Well, the king rules the entire empire, not just the United Kingdom. At that time, the British Empire extended to many countries, including Malaysia, Singapore, the Indian Empire. So it is quite a lot of countries that the British, including many countries in Africa. So the man said that this king actually rules all this empire and is seen as the main leader for entire subcontinent and many, many continents. So Swamiji then asked, if he is so great, is there someone that is greater than him? Because he only, maybe a few subcontinents, but he doesn't rule the entire world. So is there somebody greater than this king? And this person said, yes, there is somebody greater. He is what we call God. I presume this person also was a very spiritual, religious person. So he said, yes, there is God or the creator. And Swamiji was very curious then, okay, there's somebody greater than this king. Then how do I know him? The king, I know him through this, all what people are saying in schools and newspapers. Or how do I know this God, which is greater than the king? So that triggered Swamiji to think a little bit more deeper. And the interesting thing is that he says, yes, to attain God, you have to do a few things. You have to pray, you have to be disciplined, you have to think, in a divine way, get rid of all the bad habits. And only then, he says that when the temple in you, the mind, is pure and divine, you would be able to cognize this invisible God. So Mahan caught on that and he started pursuing. I want to know this creator. So he says, okay, like all other ordinary boys that were so caught up by many, many desires and so on, Swamiji became more focused to discover this divinity. And as what the person say, you have to be disciplined, divine, not had bad thoughts, all those things. So Swamiji said, okay, I'm going to devote some time to knowing this creator. So that started Swamiji's journey of 11:11. That is the day that he says, I want to know God and I want to cognize God. And to do that, these are the steps that I was told that I should do. It means go to his place of worship, recite, pray, discipline, don't have ahimsa of the mind, non-injurious to other people, spend time on introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation. So this is what he started at the age of 11 years old, And this went on for many years. His mind was, he went, he prayed, he did. The mind is continuously, revving up to discover this divinity or this creator. So again, you see that search started for Swamiji at the age of 11. And that's why he marked this 11:11 is the day that enlightenment, the wisdom came in my mind to ask about the Creator and start the pursuit of knowing the Creator. So this 11:11 is about that the idea of the divinity was set in his mind and was percolating and reverberating throughout his mind from that day onwards. And he continued his journey. So that pursuit, he continued it. He went on, got a job as a trader, and you see all the pictures of Swamiji here, 1926, 1931, and something very interesting happened. So even though he was, he went to Rangoon. Rangoon was the capital of Burma or Myanmar. He was a trader, so he was continuously thinking about this creator. How was this all created? What's my role? And he used to go to the temples. So he used to go to his place of worship. And he was the first person and the last person to leave. And he was intensively, of course, he was a business person, trader, but he was also very spiritual in wanting to discover this. And he met this elderly person who was also like a teacher, spiritual teacher, like a ustaz, right? And he took a liking to Swamiji. He said, this boy is very diligent, very hardworking, every day he comes. And so he started having a conversation with Swamiji. And one fine day, Swamiji is telling him that, I have this thirst to know, and I go everywhere, I read, I go for prayers, I ask people, I cannot get the answer. The answer is not satisfactory. It's very theoretical and abstract. So this person got very, very close to Swamiji and used to have a lot of conversation, buy food for Swamiji, buy, coffee. They have long, long chats about this thirst that Swamiji had. So Swamiji used to say that Ullatin Pasi, that inner search, that thirst for knowing who the creator and how all this came. So for many years, he was having this conversation, and this elderly person told him, okay, bought him nice food, everything, became like a father figure. And he said, okay, I'm going to show you something that will quench your thirst, of this search, right? So on January 7th, 1938, at 11:11, he received a particular spiritual instructions in the race course in Rangoon. Swamiji narrates this. The moment he showed Swamiji how to quieten the mind down to go to the inner vibration, boom, Swamiji got it. He got that what he was searching, what he read, he felt that kind of jolt in him. And Swamiji said that actually this happened in 1938, but in 1930 he actually, dreamt about this incident. So something that he had that said this will happen. And that's why I believe that he knew he was onto something, but it's not there yet. So he kept asking and pursuing, somewhat like a scientist. You know that there is something at the end of the journey, you haven't got there yet, and you keep intensifying. And so for me, when I heard Swamiji speaking about this, when I saw the narration he gave, and for me, it was like a scientist and a researching. He knows that the truth is somewhere there. He hasn't discovered it yet. So he put in so much effort, asking people, reading, reflecting, going, and suddenly Maestro comes and says, hey, great, you're working really hard. This is the part. And boom, he got it. Right? This happens, happened to Swamiji, and happens to many, many researchers that are pursuing to discover something, and for many years, and then suddenly a maestro comes in, why don't you take this tweak? And boom, the whole thing reveals itself, right? So a good lesson for all of us is that if we want something really, really, we really have to intensify this, like how Swamiji is. And this is something I learned from Mahan, that, that if you want to discover that creator, you really have to put the effort. And for me, as a scientist, this is exactly what Swamiji said. No, you want something, you have to intensify. And as a scientist, it helped me to discover many things through this research lens, and this lens that this Mahan has left behind. So this great master gave it to him because he saw him in a thirst, right? And normally he will not show anyone, but because he got a liking to Swamiji, he gave it to him. And this elderly person, often when he gives, and very rarely he gives, he always tells people to make a promise only to the people that are qualified, right? Only selected people. But he didn't get that promise from Mahan. He didn't ask him that. He just gave it to him liberally without, thinking. And Swami said this, then suddenly he said, after he gave everything, he said, he realized he should have asked Swamiji to promise, but he didn't. And he told Swamiji, no, you select people, don't give it to everybody. And Swamiji says, how many people like me are thirsting for this knowledge? Why don't we give it to them liberally? So they too don't have to struggle like me from 11 years old to, 1938, almost 27 years he was searching. So why should? So he said, I want to give it liberally to everybody. So the guru slightly felt, okay, I should have asked him a promise, but I didn't. But anyway, I showed him the path. I can't take it back. So then I said, do what you think is right. And he blessed him, and Swamiji went to his path. So you see how Swamiji, that he was not selfish. He said, I have struggled to get this for many, many years. And I got this in just a few, by someone just showing me in a simple way. I want to give it to everybody so that they too don't. So that kind of compassion that he had was phenomenal. And that's an important lesson that I learned from this great Mahan. So then so he started practicing, and then on the 8th, so that means he got his instruction on the 7th of January. On the 8th of July, it's close to 6 months, the glow, he intensified this practice, and there was this tejas that was in him. Everybody looked at him, in the place of worship, and, oh, you look like a guru, you look like someone who's enlightened. And Swami said, yes, so he could feel that vibration. That changed Swamiji. That moment, that when people recognize, he knew, but when people started to recognize, there was a change. He said, I have a role to play here to impart this knowledge. So he stopped all his work, right? He returned back to India. So he started intensifying his practice and wanting to teach people this meditational practice, the secret that which was revealed to him after many years of search. When he went back to India, it wasn't easy. At that point, he already had a wife, and he had a son who eventually passed on at a very early age, and he had a daughter, right? And they lived a very frugal, poor life. I mean, in terms of, because he didn't have a job, they really, really struggled. And Swamiji says that he thanked his wife because she was able to manage with very little money. But he gave up his material needs, very minimalistic living, to impart this knowledge to everyone. So he started, wrote a leaflet, gave it to people. Okay, come here, I will teach you. I'll show you this. Not many people came. Many people questioned him. Many people were, skeptical. A few people that, who was also searching for this knowledge came to Mahan, and he showed them, and they got that vibration from him. And also during this period, Swamiji also intensified his research. He didn't sit down, idly. So he got this knowledge. He says, how do I improvise this to make it easier for people? So he knew that if you intensify your meditation, you can get it. But not everybody has the luxury to do that. Many of them have families and work. So he started thinking about, how do I simplify this meditational process, right? So what the method the guru, his teacher showed him was really a complex, a tantric method. So, and he saw that the society may not be able to practice this unless you give up many things in life. So he devoted his time from 1938 to 1942 to think about it very carefully, think about the technique, and then slowly, slowly, through experimentation, he discovered the first stage, how to awaken that force in a more simplified way, how to bring it down. Nobody in the history of this practice knew how to bring it down except Mahan, right? He was able to, which I'll talk about later, and he was able to bring it down and then bring it up to the top. So the three steps that he showed was Mahan's innovation on how to awaken the Kundalini in a controlled and in a harmonious way, ensuring the body and the mind is healthy and strong to be able. So when you practice this meditation, your body and your mind and your intellect all become more stronger. So Swamiji became more confident. Okay, now I've got this technique, somewhat like an inventor and innovator. I've got this new technique. I want to impart this. So he tested in a few people. It was working really well. So now he said, okay, I'm ready to. So he put out a chit. Come, ask everybody to come. So then in 1942, he established the Universal Peace Sanctuary in India as a vehicle to help, people with learning this technique. And during this period, he started thinking more deeper, all the questions that he had. Remember, he learned this technique. This technique now, he had this big questions of who God was, who the creator, the creative process, and the creation. It was still very abstract for him. So, but this meditational practice slowly helped him to deepen, quieten the mind down. And you see that something phenomenal that happened to him, at least when I start analyzing it, I see this. The mind became very powerful, that he was able to become very subtle to unlock the secrets of the creator, the universe, and the self. I'll walk through with you later what I discovered from the conversations with Mahan, conversations with Guru Sangaran, and reading and reflecting and practicing this teaching. So in 1942, Mahan established a Universal Peace Sanctuary. People are coming. Slowly, the crowd is getting big. He started going out and giving talks. So one is about the technique, and now he's starting to figure out what this creator is, the creative process, how everything is coming together. So he started writing small books about the creator, God, the self, all those. So in the early phase, Swamiji had many smaller books. If you go to the Chennai Sabha, you'll see those smaller books. And over time, he compiled everything to that, compilation of the I God book. I have one of the earliest copy of that book. I got it, and this is the earlier edition of that book that has close to 100 chapters that he consolidated everything from the philosophy to the practice to our own day-to-day life and how to live harmonious. And much of that is also found in the YouTube clips that you will see on Mahan's philosophy. So Mahan traveled across the globe now. He's confident. He's got something here to impart the knowledge. And remember, his original thought was that he struggled to get this. He struggled to acquire this understanding of the divinity and experience that divine vibration. He started saying, I got something here. I'm going to go out and give talks. And when he was giving the talks, the vibration is so strong. I think I posted some of his speeches, early speeches. He was so energetic. He met people of all walks of life. You see, these are people that came out. Some of them were learned. Some of them were, normal people. Some from very poor families. Some, priests. So you see Mahan travel everywhere. He went to Singapore, to Malaysia, right? He went to the Middle East, and you can see the Singapore subway there, the Serangoon, Upper Serangoon Road. Mahan went to the Middle East, he went to UK, Canada, and traveled everywhere to impart this knowledge. Remember, his main objective was that everybody should benefit. They shouldn't struggle to get this knowledge. So he made it simplify that into the 3 stages. Right? So Swamiji's journey went on. And I was fortunate that we were all fortunate that Mahan visited Malaya. This is before independence, and Malaysia and Singapore. So here are some of the dates that Swamiji visited. And when I marked that asterisk there, that asterisk is when I met Mahan the first time. I was about 5 years old. And I saw him in the airport. That is the time I saw him. Of course, I have seen him in the photos in our home since I was, since my memory. The photo is always there, and the photo is still there in the house, right? But physically seeing him was in 1969 when I saw him in Subang Airport. Although he didn't come into the country, I could have seen him from the tarmac. So this is 1969. And then 1976, he came to Singapore and Malaysia. And 1980 was his last celebration in Malaysia. So he was traveling around the world, even though at the age of 80 years old, to impart this knowledge. And he had that intensity to impart this knowledge. So here it is, some of the pictures that we have, and you can see myself there. That's me watching him. That's Guru Sangharan. And this is in Singapore. And this speech was given on the 31st of August during Merdeka Day, and I can still remember the speech that he gave. I have the recording of the speech and how you're saying about why this meditation is very important, that helps us to live a healthy and happy life. Here again, we were very fortunate that we were able to celebrate Mahan's 80th birthday, a very grand celebration that we had. And these are pictures that you see here, which is very fascinating. Mahan did not have a big entourage that came with him or when he actually went on his own. He was very, very independent. So you see most spiritual people or others, they always have a big entourage and they have, many things that people to help them. This Mahan traveled on his own, So, which is, for me, it was really a profound thing. And you see the picture there on the right-hand side, he's walking with his bag, with his passport, down the Subang airport, down to the aircraft. Those days, that's how it was. So we see that this, what did we learn? I mean, the 11-year-old boy that had that thirst, that never left him, continued this thinking until 1938 when somebody showed him he was ripe. When he got that knowledge, the spark just lit, and he did his research, made it simpler, and started taking out to the world. And that's what distinguishes him. And he never, asked for anything comfortable. He said, look, I will do like everybody else and, impart this knowledge without any expectation. So that is his journey, his lifestyle, and something that all of us can learn. Right? Very simple life. And when he traveled with 3 veshti, inner clothes, nothing really fancy, right? And so the important contribution is that through this, he actually unlocked the secret of what life was about, what the creative process. And for me, that is one of the most profound thing of making sense of everything. I mean, I'm trained as a scientist. We want to know what the universe is, where did it come from, all those things. So those questions Swamiji had, and he started thinking about it with this spiritual lens. So he started thinking about God. So he conceptualized this thing called darkness. No other scriptures or no other book starts off with this concept of nothingness. What does that mean? It means that this substratum where before time there's something, and that is part of everything, right? So he discovered this concept, and if you want to know more detail, you can actually look at the YouTube clip. But he wrote it in his I God book very, very clearly this concept of Irul or nothingness. Nothingness is not empty. Nothingness means it's no thing. No thing means no matter, no energy, no time. Can you imagine living in a world without time? What does that mean, right? So, so he started conceptualizing this abstract ideas in his mind, and then say, okay, how do I experience this? And so he started thinking about this very carefully, you know, and he says, this is the state of that big guy, the infinite possibility. So now he's starting to bring everything together, right? And he says, from there emerged this primordial atom. So that means formless to now form taking place, you know? And he started saying, well, why is that the possible? Why is it the case? Well, if it's infinite possibility, it can create any dimension, it can manifest as any dimension. One of the dimension is our universe, which started with the primordial dot, which has got space and time, and the physics of our universe. There may be others, right? So he started thinking. By the way, he was thinking through with the spiritual lens. He was not trained as a scientist, but he was thinking like a scientist. So he said the primordial atom, that is how our universe emerged. Somewhat like, you know, and that is imprinted in all of us, right? How did consumption come? Right? You see that when two people by chance come together, you see that conception takes place and there's a spark, and eventually you see life forms. And this is exactly how our universe. So he's starting to relate things. And everything in this universe starts with this. So he showed how, and he's talking about quantum physics here, you know. And for me, this was fascinating because there was a time when I was intensifying my meditation, I was also studying physics. And I said, wow, this Mahan was talking about a logical, a scientific, and a systematic way of unraveling the creator, the creative forces, creation, including our own self. So he says, nothing, something by chance. Formless takes form, eventually go back to the formless state. So he's explaining this concept in his I God book in a very simplified way. He said, boom, the whole universe began, right? And it's continuously expanding. And this is true. And this imprint is in everything, in our nebula, in our galaxies, in the growth of cell, in our human existence, in animals, in plants. All this DNA is imprinted, right? So he says everything is an expansion, manifestation, evolution of God. So that before our universe was created, that creator was embedded, that creative force that is embedded in everything. So the spark of the creator is in everything. Everything is a manifestation of this divinity, including all of us. So if we start searching for it, we will discover that in our deepest core. This is the enlightenment or the jnana udayam or the wisdom that Swamiji is imparting. So he says, wow, all of this now is unraveled. He unpacks the whole complexity. So he shows how he's thinking, and then he shows how to operation, how to realize this through meditational practice. So he says, okay, now that I've got it, I've got the vibration, let me go deeper to understand what is happening, and then show how all of us can develop our mindset into what he calls a spiritual compass that helps us to navigate to discover this truth. So this Kundalini meditation that he discovered is actually his navigation tool, actually his compass to discover this. At least for me, that's how I see it, right? So he's got this question on the creator, the creative force and everything. So he had an idea. How do I now, like a scientist has an hypothesis and then they'll test it out in the laboratory. For him, his laboratory was actually his body and mind, right? So he said, how do I now understand this and capture this? So he discovered this spiritual compass, which I call the 3 stages of initiation, right? And you'll see in some of the YouTube clips, I explained that is his GPS system to guide us. You know, we have a GPS when we travel, we have GPS. that guides us when we travel in our car or in the aeroplane. I call it the Jnanavalal Paranjyothi Mahan system. Right? So this is how he started showing different techniques. The first stage, second stage. So, uh, so he developed techniques for people to focus the mind to be able to go deeper. Right? Here are some of the pictures that he showed many people from different parts of the world how to practice, to how to discover their spiritual compass and how to tune that spiritual compass to discover the creator and the creative force within themselves. So again, this is the third stage of initiation. He even initiated monks and priests and those who are also in that pursuit of knowing the truth. So this is Mahan's meditation technique or spiritual compass. He says, in the flames of the tapas of awareness, I attain my own self. What that self is, the spark of divinity. So here he goes on to explain that, remember I told you that he, from the age of 11 onwards, he was searching. He says, seeking the inaccessible God by ceaseless and subjective inward search, I realize within myself God in its entirety. And he beautifully says this in Tamil. எட்டாத தத்பரத்தை எட்டி எட்டி உட்புறமாய் உற்று நோக்க நோக்க இப்பரமும் அப்பரமும் ஏக பராபரமும் என்னோ நான் அறிந்தேன். Actually, what that Tamil quote is actually this. In English, he says, I was seeking this inaccessible God. By searching within me, I was able to discover everything within me and outside me. So it's a wonderful way of having that hypothesis and then putting that, to practice and discovering that creator and the creative force and understanding all the creation. So he then said, okay, now I'm going to show how we're going to get this done and how we relate to the human consciousness, how all this related. And he starts off with this, it's all written in words, but I'm putting it in picture form. How the Irul starts off, and then from the Irul comes vibration, unarvu. So if you follow his I Got book, he step by step takes in the cosmic symphony or unarvu. He always says, unarvu gavanipa, and this is what it is. He says, from this, you get the vibration, the resonance of this universe. You get light, from light, this Jyoti, you get protons and all the building blocks of our universe, and everything is formed, sun, stars, galaxies, including the human existence. So he shows that lineage or the link, the Paranjyothi Parambara, right, that is embedded in all of us, that cosmic intelligence. He calls it the big eye. So he says, it's always there, right? So how do we discover that? He says, the only way for us to discover that our lineage back to the creator is through this practice of harmonizing our mind, introspection, contemplation, reflection, and this meditation process that helps us to discover the spiritual compass that helps us to navigate us back to our original state, the samadhi state, right? And for me, this is a major breakthrough of understanding everything that has been written by everyone throughout the ages of this link between the creator, the creative force, and all creation, including our own self. So here, the philosophy, the practice is coming together. But how does it benefit us in terms of our daily life? And this is what Swamiji says. If you read the book and if you put it to practice, you will know that, this practice actually makes our mind and our body and mind healthy, right? The practice, the introspection daily gives you a purpose, right? It's about knowing your place in this universe and gives you a purpose of life. I always hear people asking me, Guru, what's the purpose of my life? The purpose of life is to live a life of purpose, right? You get the passion, that zest for living, you don't get affected by, distractions and so on. Say, it's okay. Your mind becomes more calmer and cooler, unperturbed. You're able to think with clarity. Somebody say, Arivin, Arival, Arivin, Televi. He says that clarity, this introspection, contemplation, reflection gives us clarity of thought. The clarity of thought is important to help us resolve all the challenges in our lives. That clarity of thought is also very important to help us navigate through to discover who we are. And he says that perseverance, persistence are critical in getting us through to acquire that enlightened way of life, that Paranjoti. So this is the secret for me that this Mahan has left behind. That all the scriptures have been talking about, but he simplified it and operationalized it, and this is how you do it. Right? So what is it that we benefit, from this practice? And this is what, for me, is that, in this practice, we see that, we're able to discover our own spiritual capital. We are able to experience our purpose. Our mind becomes more focused. We don't waste our time on frivolous things, right? Our mind becomes more inquiring, our stress level, we manage our stress, our memory improve, our mindset become more reliable, we can trust things, the search for truth, the agility of the mind, we become more compassionate to other people's needs, we become more altruistic, right? We become more graceful and more gentle. When we do all that, you see that, our body becomes healthy. Most people's body and mind becomes unhealthy because they have very harsh thoughts, harsh words, right? Always be graceful and gentle. The brain and the body will be healthy. We'll get a powerful mind. Our intellect will be very sharp. And this is the practice that you always feel that connected state, that oneness. And when you're in that connected state, things that come will be flipped out. Things that are not relevant will be pushed out, right? And you start getting that universal outlook of life. And finally, that enlighten and the awareness of the self. This is the Paranjoti state. So your body, the mind, the intellect, our character, our personality all becomes really, really powerful, divine, and spiritual. That's what enlightened living is. So this is what that wisdom is, how to live a wonderful life, right? So I say the Swamiji has taught me how to live a wow life. And that's what the enlightenment for me is, how to live a wow life, an awesome life, right? What does that mean? World class, that means pace setting, becoming a leader, trailblazing. For me, Swamiji was trailblazing because what's been spoken about in many, many scriptures, he simplified it, he showed a technique, he says anybody can practice, irrespective of race, religion, economic status, men, women, youth, elderly, anybody can practice. For me, that is trailblazing, right? And that's pace setting. It becomes more and more universal. Outstanding. In what sense? What you do creates opportunity for yourself and for others. See, Swamiji, when he gave up his business, he went into poverty. But this meditation revived him and brought him to a state where he was able to contribute to society, that he eventually was able to travel around the world. People accepted him and accepted his knowledge. And through that process, he was able to create opportunities for others too, to live a prosperous and also a spiritual life. That's what that wow is. And the last one is winnable, to be able to transform and impact not only your life, but the life of everybody that you touch. And this is what a wow life. For me, this is what my guru showed me, that how do we live a wow and inspirational life? Not brood, not complain, not bicker, not all those things. You say, look, get on with it. Don't let all this distract you. This is what the Jnana Udayam for me is. This is what the enlightenment is. So I see my Guru is the charioteer of my life. The Guru, what I mean is that the knowledge and the wisdom that is left behind is the charioteer of my life. There are moments that are challenging. There are moments the road is straight and clean. You say, okay, now you can speed. There are moments that the road is bending. He says, okay, be very careful when you take the corners. There are times when the road is very slippery. He says, okay, slow down. There are times when the road is broken completely. The Guru says, okay, take a rest. Your body needs a rest, right? So for me, this Mahan has become the chariot of my life. When the Guru and the divinity is the chariot of your life, are you worried about anything? Nothing will touch you. You become transcendental. You become universal, right? And that's what this Wisdom Day for me is, right? So, and that's why I devoted my life to research and to take Swamiji's message across, that you can put it to practice as a student, you can put it to practice as a professional, you can put it to practice as a householder, you can put it to practice as a community leader, you can put it to practice in every stages of your life, and live a wonderful and blissful and wisdom-rich life. So if you want to know more, here is some of the materials of Swamiji's, the I Got philosophy in a more systematic and scientific way. I know most people find it hard to read, but here are some of the YouTube clips to help you to bridge that knowledge that this great Mahan has left behind for all of us. So that, Mahan and Guru Sangaran used to say that my goal is for me to make you all like Mahan and better than me, not equal to him or them. I want all of you all to be better than me. Why did he say that? So that when we are better, the knowledge grows and deepens. It should not stagnate. So I challenge all of you all on this Wisdom Day that this great Mahan has taught all of you all. What are you doing to take this knowledge to the next stage of its evolution, so that there's always continuous development and there's continuous expansion, and touching more people, have broader reach and richness of people's lives. So on this Wisdom Day, I challenge all of you all who are practicing, how do we walk this path? And that is what we celebrate, because they are our pace setters that teaches us how to live a wonderful life, and how do we have an impactful and inspirational life and inspire other people. Guru Sangaran had this mindset. He always says, you know what? He says that we all expect a miracle in life. He says, don't expect a miracle, be the miracle. Don't expect an angel, be the angel. So I hope that in today's, celebration, that you would think very carefully, how can you play a key role in unlocking this Mahan in you to have an impactful and inspirational life. Sadosha.